and along the line you see the fingerprints of their activities. Also, they're in Iran under the auspices of Jundullah, which was announced in the 2007 White House program to destabilize Iran, that they would be funding Jundullah, which is an Iranian militant terrorist group formerly led by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And in fact, just yesterday, in an Iranian court case, a guy called Abdul Hamid Rigi, who was described as a senior member of the Jundullah terrorist group, confessed in court that the group, quote, had been trained and financed by the US and the Zionists. So he's there admitting in court that they're getting funding from the CIA in Israel, and that was announced by the White House itself. So it's not as if it's some kind of confession obtained from torture. He's saying it in an Iranian courtroom. And it's on the
let's be clear. Israeli papers admit this, British papers, U.S., none of this is even our opinion.
No, and then you've got the Taliban, the former Taliban member, the defector, saying that he got out because he found out it was all being run by the CIA in Israel and that they were killing civilians in order to destabilize countries. He got out, he said that, and 3 days later he was shot dead. So you've got defectors coming out, you've got members coming out and saying this, and then you have the actual events that have their fingerprints all over them, the mosque bombing in Iran on May 29th, just before the election controversy in Iran. You've got the Samarra mosque bombing in Iraq in February 2006, which had all the fingerprints of an inside job.
Well, no, that was in mainstream news that U.S. and British forces went in for hours, wired the building in front of everybody, and blew it up and said Al-Qaeda did it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, even Ray McGovern said that it was obvious that they did it, basically. For what reason? I mean, you've got this propaganda about Iraqis regaining their sovereignty just because some U.S. troops are pulled out of the cities, which, by the way, if there's any kind of emergency, all the Iraqi puppet government does is ask them for help, and they come right back in. You've got at least 55 fully operational military bases, U.S. military bases throughout the whole country. You've still got 130,000 U.S. military personnel that will remain. And the top commanders have said on the record that even after the supposed full withdrawal date, which is set to be sometime in 2011, that they're not going anywhere. Of course they're not going to pull out. They've captured the country. It's a launch pad for their future wars, and they need it to be unstable to a certain extent to give them justification to remain.
And that was always the public plan. You have the public plan for the military, not really public to the general public, though it's declassified, that they plan to use it and always stay there and break it in 3 regional parts controlled by a U.S.-controlled central government. And now they just move on down the chessboard. And if Americans need to be angry and think we need to stay there, they'll blow up a few U.S. troops with the imaginary guys with big beards and turbans who openly are brought in by the government. I mean, it's sick.
Yeah, and they'll create media events to reinforce it in people's minds that it's a black and white situation, that it's good guys and bad guys, like this U.S. soldier that's supposedly being captured today by the Taliban, when the Taliban are working with the U.S. to do all this. I mean, you've also got the MKO, the Mujahideen Khalq organization, which was trained in Iraq and is now being used by the CIA in Iran and was used with these recent riots and protests to radicalize that.
Well, that's my point, is the White House is on record funding Wahhabi Al-Qaeda, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, to attack Iran. And they think our public's so dumb, they say Iran is Al-Qaeda and attacking Iraq when Iran's a Shiite system, the opposite of Al-Qaeda, the opposite of Wahhabis, the opposite of Sunni. And they're on record with British SAS staging terror attacks. And in the Times of London, caught attacking bases in Basra. And it's just on record, this is all staged. And the public needs to understand that.
It's tough, though, Alex, when a good portion of them don't even know who the vice president is to explain all these things, isn't it? I mean, that's what benefits the Anglo-American establishment in all this. People can only understand it in black and white terms. So,
well, Paul, where are they, from your study, planning to use their Al-Qaeda brigades to destabilize areas. We know they want Pakistan under their control. They're menacing a legitimate government. When the president was being confronted on NBC, the president of Pakistan a few weeks ago, we played the clip here, the reporter said, why are you funding Al-Qaeda and Taliban? The guy laughed. He said, they've always worked for you. You've got them trying to overthrow our government right now. How dare you? And the reporter kind of just shut up and looked embarrassed because the reporters all know this. This is such a sick joke. They use these people in Serbia, in Africa, in Asia, just all over the place. They use them here to take all our liberties and freedoms. And on record, they're being protected by the U.S. government. And the biggest piece of evidence is the airlift of evil, AP, London Guardian, UPI, flying them out at the end of the Afghan takeover 2002. Generals would catch them, and they'd say, oh, they actually work for us. And the CIA would order them paid, put on C-130s, and flown out to Pakistan. And no, you guys put another Times of London article up. That's a 2007 about rendition. The headline is Airlift of Evil. Paul will have it in his story. Go ahead.
MSNBC.
Yeah, MSNBC's got it too. Try MSNBC Airlift of Evil. Go ahead, Paul. Closing comments on this.
Well, as everyone seems to say, the ultimate goal is to get on the border with China. And China was concerned that that would be done through the U.S. supporting South Korea in attacking North Korea. But they've already got their terrorists in Pakistan, which is bordered with China, albeit in the Tibetan region, but it's bordered with China. So the CIA's already got their men on the border with China, and that could be the next destabilization campaign in the next 10 years or so after they've wrapped up Pakistan and Iran, which is their current theater of operations, obviously.
And human life means nothing. To the globalists, it's all cold-blooded. How do we win? Oh, we blow up our own troops and say the Muslims did it, so we have a pretext to stay there. And the troops go, I love the government killing me. It's freedom. And, we need to get this information out to people. Well, great job, Paul. And, again, we'll be looking for that article up at prisonplanet.com in the next few hours.
Thanks, Alex.
You bet. I can imagine a headline, Western governments funding Al-Qaeda to kill U.S. troops. The history of radical Muslims working for the West to destabilize planet. I think that'd be a good headline. We'll come back, go to your phone calls. Big news blitz coming up. Got another guest in the next hour. We'll look at Texas independence. It's really starting to gain steam. Stay with us.
We have special operations people, and they're great people. They're very loyal soldiers. They do what they're told, going around killing people around the world without ambassadors knowing it, without the CIA station chiefs knowing it, without Congress knowing it. If that doesn't sound like, with this president, if that doesn't make people nervous, I don't know what else would, I can just tell you.